calculate rental yield for commercial property and why does it matter? Rental yield matters as it's one of the strongest metrics for an investor to recognize value for a property. It's also key to determine your net income once you take into consideration the outgoings and the expense of that property. When you're looking at rental yields, you need to determine, are you looking at a gross rental yield or a net rental yield? Now, a gross rental yield is taking the purchase of the property, let's say $1 million, and the gross income, let's say you got one tenant in there paying $80,000 a year. You would then, for the gross yield, you would go 80,000 divided by 1 million, and that gets you 8%. But you really need to know the net rental yield of the premise, and that's when you take into consideration any outgoings that will be deducted from that gross income of the property, because you really need to know what's going to be left over in your pocket. Taking the example of an $80,000 a year income, you may have strata fees to pay, agent management fees, land tax, council rates. Let's say the total outgoings for the premise is $20,000 a year, leaving you with $60,000 income. That is your net income. So using the same purchase price of $1 million from before, divided by the 60,000 gets you a net yield of 6%. Once you've determined that number, you can then look at the market itself and see if that equals good value. For an example, you might see other investments have sold on a 5% net income. So for you to have the opportunity to buy a property at a 6% net income, that is great value. Or you may see all the comparables on the market are on a 7-8% net income, and therefore you would have to look a little bit closer to see why you would buy that property on a lower net income compared to others. And there may be reasons. There could be development upside to that property that will increase the value. There could also be the rental income of $80,000 is below market, and if you find a new tenant, it could be $100,000 a year. So there could be reasons why you would buy a property with the lower net income to the market average. But the key factors for when buying commercial property and metrics to look at is the yield. So that's why it's important to know the yield, know how it's calculated, so you can do your own research. Thank you very much.